And Ifta program is for those people who have become alims already, like the graduates we just had, and now they're looking to become muftis. And a mufti's job is to issue, research, and write fatwas. And fatwas can range from modern new issues that you have, whether it's dealing with stem cells or organ transplant. I know there were a lot of questions about that in the last couple of days. It could be financial things. What's a contract for difference? What are exotic derivatives, halal? It could be artificial intelligence related questions. I advise a company that does AI-based Quran, for example. So there's a lot of questions associated with that. And so it's modern, new issues, as well as contextualized old issues. Sometimes people come to you with specific questions with their context. It might be about wudu, it might be about prayer, it might be about fasting, standard issues, but it's within their context and they're looking for a ruling specific to them. So that's the point of fatwas. And the Al-Salam program is a 2-year program. It's structured very similar to the Alim program, where the classes happen primarily on the weekends, but there's work to do throughout the week. The components of this program include studying many of the things that were already studied as an alim at a more advanced level. So fiqh is studied again, usul al-fiqh, the maqasid al-sharia, the qawa'id fiqhiyah, the principles of fiqh, the maxims of fiqh, the purposes behind the sharia and the rulings and so on. All of those subjects are covered. But in addition to that, there are new subjects as well. So there are specific research modules on each of the madhabs. There's a module on the Hanafi fiqh, another one on Shafi'i, another one on Hanbali, another one on Maliki. Each of these modules go through the methodology of fatwa in the 4 madhabs. What are the most common books to reference? What are the research idiosyncrasies one needs to think about when using these books? What are specific terminologies, vocabularies? So you actually become reasonably familiar with the 4 madhabs and their methodologies. Also, there's classes because we're not, like Shaykh Akram mentioned, we're not giving fatwa in Pakistan. We're not giving fatwa from 1,000 years ago. So you need context. And a part of that context is courses like sociology, where you study the context of the West that we're in, some of the history, some of the philosophies that are in play that people are aware of, and even those that people may not be aware of. There's also a counseling and a chaplaincy module where you, again, a lot of times there's a blend. People come to you with marriage advice, and then all of a sudden it becomes fatwa, or they come to you for fatwa. What they really need is advice. And so there's a chaplaincy and a psychology component to the program as well. And throughout the 2 years, there's a lot of fatwa writing, and that stays constant. So you're writing a lot of fatwa, a lot of research, a lot of practice, getting a lot of feedback from your teachers to continue to improve the fatwa throughout the process. So that's the program. I was also asked to talk about my personal experience, or rather, I'm going to talk about the experience of the group. And there were many things that we learned. I don't want to get into the technical details, but there were some things that Shaykh Akram reminded us again and again and again. So I would like to mention 4 of those. Firstly, Shaykh Akram would remind us that the role of a mufti is to perform their role solely to please Allah, not because you're looking for approval, status, you're looking for some sort of popularity. In fact, Sufyan al-Thawri said, whoever wants that people ask him or her questions as a mufti, that person is not one who should be asked. Someone who's wanting that role is probably not the right person who should have that role. Another reminder that Shaykh would give us was that the mufti is representing Allah, because you are giving rulings of halal and haram, and you have to be very careful. Imam al-Nawawi said about this, know that ifta is a grave danger, a big position, and a tremendous virtue, because the mufti is the inheritor of the prophets, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he is the maintainer of fard kifaya, someone in the community has to be there to answer these questions. He's taking on that role. However, he is also exposing himself for mistakes. And for this reason, they say the mufti is the signatory on behalf of Allah. Shaykh would also remind us continuously that when we are writing fatwas, that we should use plain language. We should use the language of the people. Our explanation should be written in a fashion that people can understand. Don't go into technical details and evidences. And Shaykh would say, a good explanation is an evidence, right? So convince people. And in fact, he would say something that, because I actually did an Ifta program before this one, as Shaykh Andrew mentioned. And so it was a different methodology. And studying with Shaykh was refreshing because Shaykh would remind us, fatwa is advice. And many times you're taught when you're writing fatwa, don't give advice. Just make it halal haram. And Shaykh would do the opposite. He would say, make it advice so that people can follow it and they can be convinced of it. Because sometimes when you say halal and haram, people actually they get turned off by it. So you want to invite them, you want to attract them to it. And then I saved the best one for last. The fourth reminder that Shaykh would give us is that the job of the Mufti, the main job of the Mufti, is to bring people closer to Allah. Whatever ruling you're going to give, is that going to bring someone close to Allah? And that means that sometimes you may not go with what you believe is the strongest opinion. Sometimes you have to look at the situation, the psychology of the person, the context. How are they going to respond to the answer that you give them? How do you drive them towards sabr? How do you drive them towards shukr? How do you drive them towards taqwa? Taking all of those into account, how should you write up an answer that convinces this person? And how do you make it in a way that you are acting as a murabbi, as a teacher, as an advisor, rather than someone who's just, hey, here's what's right or wrong, do it or leave it, right? So I'm incredibly grateful for this program. Firstly, to Allah for creating this opportunity for us. Secondly, may Allah reward Shaykh Akram Nadwi for being our teacher for the program. Everyone else who put the program together behind the scenes. I want to congratulate the new graduates, the new muftis. And may Allah enable all of us to benefit the ummah through our fatwas, to be able to guide people to get closer to Allah, to be the best worshippers, and to be the best abds of Allah that we can be, through applying the methodology that we learned and helping people obey Allah as He should be obeyed.